My name is Briana Gess, spelled Briana Gess. I'm a sophomore at the University of Virginia. I am majoring in biology and Spanish. In New Jersey, I was known as the runner girl. Running has been my entire life. I started when I was 3 years old. I ran my first 5K. And then I eventually started getting into road races because my mom was a runner and she pushed me in the stroller while she ran, and eventually I just stopped wanting to be in the stroller. And so I ran the 5K. And then going into high school was a big decision for me whether or not I was going to play soccer or run cross country. Ultimately, I decided to run cross country because my dad was the soccer coach at our high school for the girls team, and he retired, and I've always wanted to play for him, but then he retired, so that made my decision a lot easier. I trained with the boys team. My freshman year of high school was probably my best year of running. I loved it at that point. People didn't really know who I was, and I liked that. And I remember I went undefeated in New Jersey my freshman year of high school, fall and spring, because I played basketball in the winter. And that was awesome, and it was so exciting, and it was so cool because it started to feel like people would be like, oh, can we have your autograph or stuff like that, and as a 15-year-old, that's so cool. I got recruited to run at a couple of different schools. At Georgetown, Utah, Florida State, and Virginia were my final 4 choices, and ultimately I chose Virginia just because I loved the environment and the academic situation, obviously. Plus I loved the coaches and the team that they introduced me to. And people said to me when I was picking a school, they said, make sure that you pick the school where if you could never run again, that you'd still be happy. And hearing them say that, I kind of brushed it off because, I thought I'd be running for 4 years, but ironically, I'm not running for 4 years. I had no idea about this syndrome, that's what they call it, but last year I had mono in January. And so, it took me a while to get over mono. And then I was at the doctor for a checkup, and they realized they had never done my EKG, like my heart test, in the beginning of the fall, which everyone got it, so I never had it done. And it would only take a few minutes, and we ended up being in there for about 3 hours because they found out that I had long QT syndrome. And I just remember being in a room and everyone was just whispering around me because it is kind of a rare condition, so I don't think people really knew what to do with it. So I was sent home. I went to the doctors at UVA, and they basically told me that I was born with this condition that's exercise-induced, which makes it dangerous for my heart to get to a really high heart rate, which running tends to bring your heart to a higher rate. And so due to that, I probably wouldn't be able to, first it was not be able to run again, ever. And then they kind of re-looked at it and did some different genetic tests and found out the type that I had. And I'm allowed to run still, but I wouldn't be able to compete anymore. And I remember being in the doctor's office when they told me that, and it kind of just felt like I just found out that someone died. Because, I don't know, I remember I literally just fell on the ground. I was crying, and I remember Coach Morgan, our coach at the time, was awesome, and he was crying too. The doctor was crying. It was one of the most heartbreaking moments that I've ever experienced, I think. Because I started running when I was 3 years old, and ever since then, that's been, basically who I am.
My first thought, and I think I shared this with her, was I was just said, oh my God, thank God that nothing had happened up to this point. Just relief that they figured out what was going on the way that they did. Relief that we didn't learn about her injury, or we didn't learn about her condition because of some injury. We didn't learn about her condition because of her, having a heart attack in a race or something along those lines. Just relief.
I told my mom about the condition that I had. I didn't really even know what it was. Still at this point, all I knew was that I couldn't race anymore and I was done competing. And she actually just ordered me a new pair of shoes, running shoes. So that was really upsetting because I had actually just gotten them. And, I was like, oh my gosh, I'll never be able to use them again and all this stuff. And so she was crying and I was crying. And my dad, I never seen him cry, but he was very upset. But then after that, she was like, okay, now what? And that was really big for me. I mean, so that's over, and you did it for 17 years, and now you get to find out what else you like to do and what else you can be good at.
What's been your favorite way to fill that void?
I walk so much now. I think that I have more of this time to go out and do things, and I find I just like to go for walks now by myself. I started to learning about the heart and biology is really cool to me now, because now I know different parts of it and I can really understand what's going on. I've spent so much time. I was actually really interested in neurology when I first decided to go pre-med, but then spending so much time in the cardiology department at a bunch of different hospitals, I've started to become really interested in that for obvious reasons. And so, I don't know, I think I might pursue a career in cardiology. I don't know. It's actually been kind of a blessing finding out about this.